Hello, everybody. Welcome to May's virtual bariatric meetup. I am April. I'm at Actively April, and I am joined by our other two East to West crew members, Miss Natalie, Breaking Barriers, and the Smithsonian, Jason himself. We are hopefully looking our Miami best, everybody. I mean, it is VICES. So if you also are dressed up in Miami, oh, I see Rob. Rob, please tell me that is your best Miami Vice. Oh, yes. I love it.
Hold on. I'm scrolling through Rob. Yes. I knew Rob wouldn't let me down.
Oh my gosh. Welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. I gotta take my glasses off because all fun and games aside, we are here to learn about bariatric vices. So thank you so very much for joining us today. If you would like to go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat, please do so. This is not a requirement. This is just, if you would like to kind of meet and greet people here, you can share your name or your Instagram handle. If you're pre or post-op, the type of weight loss surgery that you will have or will be having or have had, and then what you were hoping to get out of today. We have two amazing guests lined up for you. A community member, Miss Colleen. Hello, Colleen. Unmute yourself. Say hello.
Hi.
There is a picture of our lovely Colleen. And then Wendy Rawlings, licensed mental health counselor, will also be joining us today. I don't know if Wendy is here. She's actually not in the state, but she is joining us remotely. But I did know she might be a little bit late today. So these are our fabulous guests today. Colleen is going to share her personal struggle and story with a vice, specifically shopping. And Miss Wendy Rawlings is going to really talk to us about what vices are, kind of how they function, why we all have them, why it's nothing to be ashamed of, and then what we can kind of do to overcome these when we feel that they are taking a hold in our life. So thank you so very much, you guys, for joining us today. All right, first things first, we always like, oh, sorry, I'm going too fast. We always love to thank our supporters and our patrons of East to West, because these are the people that literally help us keep the lights on. And I cannot believe that I am saying this, that we continue to grow with our patrons. This list is so outdated as of like 4 hours ago, and I absolutely apologize about that. But to all of you patrons who are joining us tonight, thank you for your very epic support. We absolutely love and appreciate all that you do for us. And for all of you guys joining us tonight, thank you for your support. Coming to these live events is what helps East to West grow, and it's what helps us all really kind of recover in our own bariatric journeys. So Gather Juice is a local sponsor here in the Tacoma area. If you have not, swung by, absolutely do so. Retreat Drinks, Natalie can speak to this, best hot cacao beverage in the world. So support Retreat Drinks. And then Grit City Chiropractic, again, a local company, a chiropractor that I've been seeing for a while now, fabulous. All kinds of good stuff. These people actually support the podcast, so we're so very thankful for that support. Okay, business out of the way. Let's dive in, friends. We always like to support this community, but we want to make sure that we are on the same page. And if I'm going too quick, just unmute yourselves and say I'm going too quick. If there's something that you would like to say, please do unmute yourselves. We are always also monitoring the chat as well. So just so you guys know, our mission here at East to West, and the whole reason that we have these virtual bariatric meetups, is we want to support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty. We want to destigmatize bariatric surgery. We want to grow a community of and for bariatric patients. And we wanted a really cool place to share our ideas and experiences that add value to our lives as patients. So that's the whole mission of our virtual bariatric meetups. Some very simple ground rules. We're always going to assume best intent. We're going to share what you are comfortable sharing publicly. This is recorded so that people can access this information at any time that works best for them. So just know it is being recorded. We're not here to sell anything. We are just simply here to share our experiences and learn and grow from each other. If we see any nudity, violence, isms, foul language, all that kind of stuff, which you guys will hear me slip a word or two, and I do apologize, we will just remove you from the group. This is not medical advice. This is just simply bariatric patients getting together to learn and grow from each other. Boom. Did I do it?
I think you did it.
I see a thumbs up from Natalie. Thank you. I'm trying to move through this very, very quickly. But I think we're ready to dive in. And I do see the amazing Wendy Rawlings is here. Hello, Wendy. Wendy, thank you so much for joining us. I know that you're taking time away from your family to join us for this evening. Thank you for doing so. We very much appreciate your time and your energy and your efforts.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure. You know I love it here. So yeah.
Well, and we will get into this. Wendy herself is a bariatric patient. So not only can she support us from her therapeutic lens, but she can support us from her bariatric lens, which is why she is a true gift to the world. Yeah, she laughed.
To hang out with both of you.
All right, you guys. So here is our agenda tonight. We want to understand VICES. So Wendy's going to help us define what this means and looks like in our life. We're going to understand why we use them and ways that we can avoid them. And I promise you, this will not be a scary conversation. Wendy has a very approachable and meaningful working definition that we can all find within ourselves and then use it to help us make better decisions after surgery. And then Colleen is going to share with us her very personal and her very amazing story about how she is working through and dealing with and overcoming VICES in her own life. So she's going to share her personal experience with us, which is just amazing. Wendy has some resources that she would like to share with us. And then we're going to look back. We're going to make sure that we got out of today what we wanted to get out of today. And we're going to look forward to next month's support focus, which you guys will get an early access to because you are joining us live. All right, my friends, let's do this. So I always like to start us off with a quote, and I thought this one was appropriate. Elizabeth Taylor once said, "The problem with people who have no vice is that generally you can be pretty sure they're going to have some pretty annoying virtues." I thought that was apropos, right?
Totally love it.
I can see us smiling in the background. So Wendy, please introduce yourself to our community and just kind of get us ready to learn from you today.
All right. Well, I am just thrilled to be here. Are we going to do slides tonight, darling girl, or are we just going to talk? So
nope, I've got
anytime, I'm good with that, wherever you want to do it. I love this community. It is, you're my people, I'm your people, and we've been on the same journey, or we're on the same journey, and I'm just watching, especially April and Jason grow because I get, or rather shrink, because I get to see them more often, and it's pretty darn fun. I had my bariatric surgery as a Roux-en-Y in 2005, dropped to 205 pounds, bounced back 10 pounds from that. And I vary between, it really doesn't matter how much, but I'm just healthy. I feel like I got my life back. I was heading toward invalidity, if that's a word. And now I'm in Texas. I live in Washington, but I'm in Texas with my grandchildren and playing with them and, doing the running around stuff that I would have never dreamed I would have done that many years ago. So I am just real happy with what I do. About 2 years after my surgery, I'm a mental health counselor, licensed mental health counselor, and I've been practicing since a long time. I started when I was very young, and about 2 years after my surgery, my surgeon and then a couple of other surgeons in the area asked me to start seeing their clients, and so I started doing that, and it's just been the most rewarding thing. I pretty much have, my goal is to have 80% of my caseload right now as bariatric people, and I'm at least there plus, because you're just so much fun. We're just doing the same things, and I just love being around you. So that's my life. That's what I do. Yeah.
Thank you, Wendy. I've been seeing Wendy for about 2 years now. I started seeing her before I had bariatric surgery, and she is one of the few reasons I have found success after surgery. So if you are also looking for somebody, a professional that you would like to start utilizing their resources and their expertise, Wendy is a nationally licensed distance counselor. So her website is there if you would like to learn more about Wendy, but I can attest to her skills. She is amazing. So let's just get right into it, Wendy. I have the slides that you shared with us in our podcast, and I'm just going to bring them up on our screen. And then please do, you guys, if you have a question, if you would like to interject, if you have something you'd like to share, please feel free to unmute yourself and speak. We will also be monitoring the chat. So if you don't feel comfortable asking your question verbally, you can write it in the chat and I will grab Wendy's attention and I'll ask it, and we'll just kind of, we'll go through it that way if you guys are good with that.
Great. I want this to be as interactive as you need. Because and I can get going and I just need to have somebody say, stop, I have to let my brain catch up. I've created a few slides that are going to be helpful in our discussion here. When we talk about vices, really what we're talking about is the addiction cycle. And we, at some point in time, got addicted. And sometimes we get addicted to sugar. Sometimes we get addicted to other kinds of food. And when we stop using that as our way to cope with the world and to kind of get us through the world, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, then we often cross addict. And that's why in the old days, before they didn't do smoking inside, you'd go to an AA meeting and everybody had quit alcohol, but boy, were they go into town with the cigarettes, and the air was just thick. And that's called cross addiction or transfer addiction. And some people that I talk to say, I have an addictive personality. I think all of us that have relied on a substance of one kind or another, or a behavior of one kind or another, have that tendency to cross addict to something. So it's important to understand what the addiction cycle looks like. And so we've got it here on the slide. We get triggered emotionally. Our resources get overloaded. We just don't have enough emotional, physical resources to deal with whatever's going on in our lives. And that sets up kind of a craving. We are trying to take care of that overload. And so we crave something. In our case, we'll say it's food. It might be shopping. It could be all kinds of different things. It could be computers. There's lots of things it could be. And so then we do the addiction because we just can't get the craving out of our head. Once we get a craving, and that's why we cross addict, once we get those craving pathways, that dopamine pathway in our head, and we get that first bump from that thought of doing whatever that craving thing is, there's actually two dopamine bumps. We get the first bump when we think about doing it, and then we sit and we fight it until we do it, and then we get the second bump. And it's a really powerful internal thing, and it's way back when the caveman was trying to climb the hill to get the berries. He'd see the berries and he'd get the dopamine bump, so he'd pursue the hill that was so hard to climb to get that second bump. But it's not useful to us anymore because all we have to do is jump in the car and go do the thing that we're craving doing. So it's really important to understand that we don't have to give into that craving and where it comes from and why it happens. So we do our addiction, and then that gives us some temporary relief. But at the same time, it sets up that regret, that guilt, that shame cycle. And we start beating ourselves up. We start feeling like failures. We take that bit of internal energy that we got from doing the thing we weren't going to do, and we spend that on guilt, shame, etc. And then we get emotionally re-triggered, or at least we open ourselves up to becoming emotionally re-triggered, and then we rinse and repeat. We just keep doing that over and over and over again. So the idea is we want to break this cycle. Any questions on that or comments?
And I will just say, if you guys are looking at this slide going, yeah, I'm pretty sure I do this. I think this is just what humans do. This isn't something that is like, there's nothing wrong with us. This is just how our brains are wired. And I can say personally, now that I'm almost 2 years out of surgery, the gift of weight loss surgery is not that this goes away. This cycle has remained for me. But what I have gotten is a moment of rational thought between my craving and then doing that craving, right? Whereas before, there was no ability for me. I did not have the capacity, the mental ability to actually pause between those things because I was in so much discomfort and it was just so automatic. There was no way that I was getting out of that. And now after surgery, for whatever reason, right, it has given me a little bit more of my rational brain so that when I do get triggered and that craving comes, before I participate in any type of activity, I can have a conversation with myself and I can go, okay, wait a minute, is shopping or is eating or is drinking that actually going to get me out of this emotional discomfort? I can have that conversation with myself, which is a gift, which is why we're talking about this today. Because if we know that this is just something that this is the cycle, we can figure out where we can interject our rational thoughts into that. Exactly. So I don't know if that I don't know if that helps or if that, but I mean, are you guys, does this seem to be resonating with you?
Does anybody have any questions, or does it make sense? It's not,
People shaking.
yeah.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I guess the question is at what point, and I'm sure you're going to get there, at what point do you identify that it's about to happen and then recreate new pathways to handle that?
That is exactly the point. And so if I haven't answered that by the end of what I'm going to say, please ask that again, okay? Because that's the whole point. Yeah, thank you. So I want to give you an acronym for what the reasons, and these are not every reason, but these are the main reasons that we turn to an addiction, or the reasons we vice. I decided to call it VICE because that's what we're talking about. So the acronym is BLASTED. It stands for B is for bored, L is for lonely, A is for angry or anxious, H is for hungry, or sometimes it's just hormones. S is for sad or stressed, T is for tired, E is for excited, and D is for depressed. And I bet you that you could come up with some other ones for this one too. But the point is, we often, when we get the craving or when we get the emotional trigger, we often are blasted, and the emotional trigger either puts us into blasted, or we're blasted and then something else happens and we just go, we just sort of fall apart. And so if we're able to start putting feelings or words to what that emotional trigger is, and we take that minute that April's talking about and kind of go inside and go, okay, what's really going on here? Then we have a chance to change the pattern, because this is a pattern for most of us that we've had unconsciously or consciously for much of our lifetime. One of the cool things about surgery, like April was talking about, food just doesn't taste good to us anymore for a while. So we cannot eat the way we were eating. And if you're going into surgery, or if you've just had surgery, this is a great time for you to go, okay, what am I feeling? Am I feeling any of these blasted feelings? And if I am, what am I going to do about it? Because certainly reaching for food is not going to do it for me. If you've been out of surgery for a while, you know that it will, and you're going to have to just slow everything down. And that's the first big message today, is slow it down. Go at a glacial pace. If you can slow things down, you've got a chance. And so realizing, as we're feeling blasted, that our vices actually didn't start out to be a problem in our lives. They actually were there to help us. Usually as kids, we have a certain amount of resources, but sometimes our problems are bigger than our resources are. And so we created a relationship often with food to account for that. We have this many resources and this big of a problem, so we turn to food, and that helps us feel better, and it helps us feel able to handle what that problem is. So as we work through things, and as we grow and as we have experiences, our resources also grow. So we don't need food to the extent that we used to when we were small to deal with the big stuff, but we've gotten into the habit. And I just thought a comment, blasted is a good way to describe it. Yes, it is. So we've gotten into the habit of using food, or if we're not going to use food, using something to deal with our feelings when we feel blasted. So when we were younger and we started doing our vices, it was not to hurt us. It wasn't to bring us pain. It was to bring us some fun. Maybe life was too serious, or we were just on the treadmill with our heads down, just going. So it brought us fun. It was a reward for doing something that we didn't want to do, and we did it, so we got a reward. And this is reinforced a lot by our parents or by society. It gives us strength and stamina, and I think this is a huge one. It's something super big to understand that when we have a thing that's bigger than us, a lot of times we tend to eat just to build ourselves up in order to do that. And I was talking to a client the other day, and we were talking about strength and stamina. She stopped for a minute. She says, wow, that's exactly what I do. And after the surgery, I can't do it like I used to. And I miss it. It's hard to do this without my food, because food has been her strength and her stamina. So it's finding those other things that we'll talk about in a minute. Sometimes we do it just because we like the taste of food, or we do it for pleasure. We do it a lot to fit in socially. And we sometimes like living on the edge, living a little dangerously. So We do it for protection. Our size sometimes protects us either in a physical way, or sometimes it protects us from other people's expectations of us. We do it sometimes for just emotional survival. Food is our friend. If we don't go to food, we go to another vice to feel like we're getting our reward, or we're getting rewarded for just getting through the day. And sometimes we do it because we lack self-esteem or self-awareness, and that's not on there too. There's many that we could have put on this list. So let's just take a minute and think, okay, well, what were the positives that were going on when I started doing this vice? I'm sorry, I have the sun and I might pull this in a minute. This is my son-in-law's office. I'm not used to the lighting system for it. But ask yourself, when I started doing this thing, what was I doing? What was going on in my life, first of all, that I needed help with? And what did this thing that I was doing do for me? Because it wasn't there to hurt me. It was there to help me. So think about that for just a second. And you can either put your answers in the chat, or you can, just raise your hand or just start talking.
And I know in my conversations with Wendy, I really came to realize that I used food as my vice to numb out. I didn't want to feel anything. I was so stressed. I just wanted a moment of peace and quiet in my own brain. And I got that by eating. I would eat to excess until I was so full that the only thing I could think about was just how uncomfortable I was. But it was a break for me.
Yeah.
So it's right. It isn't. Yeah. The interesting thing about vices, that just what I've learned with Wendy, is that it is so personal, and it is really a one-on-one relationship that you have with your feelings and emotions and your quickest way out of them. It's that. And really what I think the key to this is, and Jen, I think I said it earlier in the chat too, it's like, well, how do I know if I'm turning to a vice? For me, when Wendy said this, I was like, oh, okay. I would always regret that afterwards. I would always beat myself up over that food decision that I had made, right? Or I would feel shame or ashamed about the decision that I made. As soon as Wendy said that, I was like, oh my God. Okay. Yeah, because I almost never felt good about what I was eating after. But it was all that I could do to get in the kitchen and make myself that breakfast sandwich so that I could eat it and feel full, right? There was no worrying about shame before I did the action. It only came after.
Exactly.
And when Wendy also told me, it's like a vice can be something that seems good, but if you're doing it to excess and there's that shame element and it's taking away from other areas of your life, you're relying on something in a way that's not healthy. So for me, it's like I could curl up on the couch and read for probably 12 hours a day. If I did that every day, that would really take away from my quality of life. That would detract from my life. So that's why vices, this conversation of vices can be a little bit, like it seems odd, because a vice can be something that's good or healthy for us. But if we do it to excess and it takes away from our lives, that's why some people turn to exercise after bariatric surgery, right? They go crazy, like 6 hours at the gym. Is that a vice, even though it's healthy, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
For me,
It can also look different in several different ways as well, because for my more was in the events of when I ate specifically to eat to excess. Like that was the whole gig. Like anytime I went to go get, whether it was going to get the food by myself or if I was out with people, it was all about the sheer overeating, the quantity of food that I could possibly pack in myself, knowing that I was going to be just completely miserable and on the edge of getting sick when I was done. It still didn't detract me from doing that. Like I would still do that to the point that, and even when I got to the point I was doing it by myself in the car, and I specifically did that at work on lunch, I ate in my car so that nobody would see or judge the sheer amount of food that I was taking in at the time. So it doesn't always have to manifest itself in that way. It can look several different ways.
yeah, and even for myself, like growing up, my childhood, it was food made me feel safe. And so growing up and saying, oh, I feel scared. I mean, that's what anxiety and other things do to you. I turned to food. That was my go-to.
So you see how, and we've got so many ways that food. And then again, we're substituting after surgery. Sometimes we substitute some other things for food, but you can see where food was actually your friend. Food was your comfort. Food was the way you numbed out. Food was everything on this list and more. And it wasn't there to hurt you. And we didn't establish a relationship with food to hurt us. But it got out of hand. And the resources, again, we didn't have a lot of resources then. We got a lot more now. So we've got a better way to control this now. We don't need food or other vices the way that we used to. I love, I'm going to just put a plug in for this slide, willpower, and I hate that word. I just dislike that word so much, but it's a consumable resource. And you'll notice, most of us, that we wake up in the morning with really good intentions, and I'm going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to eat this way, this way, this way, I'm going to exercise here and here and here. And we start out with just these amazing intentions. And because willpower is a consumable resource, by the time we get to a certain part of our day, depending on how hard the day has been, by the time we get to that part, we lose it. We just lose it, and we don't follow through, or maybe we see the stuff that we should have never bought from the store, and we start to go after that because willpower is a consumable resource. Or if we transferred addictions, then we do that other thing that we said yesterday that we were never going to do again. And that's because willpower is consumable. So there's a book, The Willpower Instinct, which those of you that know me know this. It took me a year to buy because I hated the word willpower, and I just couldn't bring myself to buy a book with that word in there. So, but anyway, that word is in the book, and she talks about willpower, won't power, and want power. And that is such a powerful, powerful concept when you're trying to understand vice or break addiction. Because truly, it's not about willpower, it's about won't power, and it's about want power. And the reason that we went through the surgery in the first place is because we wanted to be different. We wanted to change our lives and ourselves. And so it's, how bad do you want it? And what are you willing to do for it? And do I realize I have all these resources now that I didn't have when I first started my addiction cycle? So this is a really great book to get. And I just really, I should get a royalty for plugging it, but she's just such a good book. I think I'm on my 4th or 5th read of it right now, just because it's so good. It's really worth the read. Yeah.
Well, and the thing that I want to I guess just highlight about this is that what has been so powerful for me, and I hope other people in the community, is to come to the realization that there is nothing wrong with you. Your brain is doing exactly what it is wired to do, and that is to get you out of emotional or physical pain as quickly as possible, right? So it's actually doing what it is supposed to do. Your brain doesn't know that whatever choice it has helped you make or that you have made is actually detrimental to you in the long run. It's not its job in the moment. In the moment, it is to make you well, right? And make you feel whole. So the fact that you have turned to something is what your brain is supposed to do. And when I learned this nugget about willpower, it again reinforced for me that there is nothing wrong with me, right? I wake up every day with the same amount of willpower in my bank. And there are some mornings that I wake up, and as soon as my eyes open and I look at my phone, I'm making withdrawals from my willpower bank because shit has hit the fan already at 6:30 in the morning, right? So I've just got deposit coming out of that willpower bank. So no wonder some days it's impossible or hard or very difficult for me to not make a choice that I don't want to make that's detrimental to my health, because I'm already out of my deposits, right? Like I've already used that. So now not only do I have a stressful day, but now I'm out of my bank account, so to speak, of willpower. So when I'm laying there in bed, or when I'm just starting to go, I'm going, oh my gosh, okay, this is going to be a really rough day. I'm already low on energy. I'm already taking money out of my willpower bank. I'm really going to have to rely on all of my tools to make the choices that I want to make today. That is a lot of work. That is an astronomical amount of work that we are doing on top of everything else: momming, wifing, fathering, husband, you fill in the blank, right? So when I learned this, and after my conversations with Wendy, right, I can go into my day saying, okay, what does my willpower bank need to look like, right? And I know that there are some mornings, this is going to be an easy day. So I can rely on some willpower, or I can, I have the capacity, but other days I don't. And knowing that that willpower bank is finite and that we wake up the same morning with pretty much the same amount in there and we're going to expend it differently helps us really plan and think about our day. Again, the gift of weight loss surgery is that all of this extra brain space that I was using for food before can now be used for this work. So that's why some days for me, it feels like this work is exhausting. It should be easier after surgery. Nah, it's just that the work has shifted.
No,
I don't,
that is right. Yeah, and you said that really well, April. I think, realizing that we as a group tend to have been, I don't know, stigmatized is maybe too strong of a word, but probably not, with blame and shame in the first place. And we stigmatize ourselves, we blame ourselves, we feel a lot of shame, a lot of guilt for not being stronger. That's why I hate the word willpower. It's really not about strength. It really is not. And it's about a lot of experiences that we've had and things that we were asked to do without the resources or without knowing how to do them. And it's okay to say, wow, I get to have a do-over, and I'm not going to be hard on myself if I'm just going to understand. If it doesn't go well, I want to know two things. I want to know what went wrong, and I want to know what I'm going to do next time, so I don't keep stumbling in the same spot. And those are basically all we need to do. And this sounds so simple. And so here is the answer to how to do it. One of the things that we tend to do is we have a dividing line right here at our necks, and we live in our heads, and our body is that thing that carries our head around. And our body is actually our friend. And we have been we tend to be so embarrassed, ashamed, unhappy with our bodies that it hasn't felt like our friend. But that's where our feelings live. That's where we know how we're doing. Usually lives below the neck. Now, not always, but usually lives below the neck. And so it becomes important. And I cannot overemphasize this. This is actually the magic bullet to make all this, the addiction piece, get better. And it's not without its work, but it's actually the way to do it. Before you take a bite of food, let's use food as the thing that we're going to monitor here. Before you take that bite of food, notice the time of day. Just stop and abstain from the bite. This is my food abstention idea. Abstain from taking that bite until you notice what time it is. Notice what thought you're having. Is the thought, I'm really hungry? Or is the thought, it's 12 o'clock, I should eat? Or is the thought, I'm bored, or I'm one of those blasted things? And then go inside and notice what you're feeling. And when I say it's addressed in your body, notice where in your body are you feeling it. And when I have my clients do that, First of all, some of them go, why are you having me do this? I don't understand why this is important. And some of them go, I can't figure this out. I don't know. But most of them go, okay, I can go right into my body and I can find that I'm feeling tight right here, or I'm feeling stressed here, or maybe I have something going on in my head. And so it's a skill that you can pick up and you can learn. And it's not that hard to do, but it's really important to go into your body, figure out what you're feeling. Could be a physical sensation as well as an emotion. Figure out what you're feeling. And then notice what you want to do to make that feeling better. April was talking about how she uses food, and we all do, to feel better or to numb out. Notice what you want to do if you're trying to cross-addict, or if you're cross-addicting. What do you want to do instead of eating? Or what have you been doing instead of eating? Have you been shopping? Have you been sleeping? Have you been reading for 12 hours a day and not getting anything else done? What are you doing in place of what the healthy thing to do would be? So notice what that vice is that you're wanting to do. And then try another option. Now, at this point in time, and this is a whole different segment, but at this point in time, your brain, the dopamine circuits have already activated. So trying to figure out another option right now is going to be a little bit hard. You'll want to have a list already made up, and you'll want to put it on your fridge, in your car, on your bathroom mirror. You want to have these options already there. So all you need to do is just pull up that list and go, okay, this is what I'm going to do instead. Do 3 or 4 of those other options and notice how you're feeling. Notice if the feeling starts to diminish, if you feel better, if you feel worse. And then if you do need to do the vice, do it in little pieces, in little small bites. And ask yourself between every piece that you do, how am I feeling? Do the whole exercise. How am I feeling inside? What is it that I need? And what can I do instead of this thing that I think I want to do? Does that make sense to everybody? And did that answer the question, that very good question that you asked earlier on? Yeah. It sounds easy and it sounds hard at the same time. The thing that I want us to remember is that we are a group that isn't used to taking care of ourselves. We're used to taking care of other people. And so to just stop and slow down and go internal and take care of ourselves for a few minutes is really hard. It's a habit, and it's a habit. The old habit's hard to break, and this one's hard to bring on board. We did it when we prepared for surgery. You know, that was a full-time job for a while, and so we really did focus on ourselves. That same amount of focus might be needed again to get on track or to stay on track, but at least prioritize yourself higher. If you're starting to lose that focus, start putting yourself as a higher priority. And that will help. That will really help you a lot.
I know it was hard for myself when it came to listening to my body. That was one of the things I really had to learn how to do, because I had so much emphasis was put on, eating the amounts of food that I was eating at the time. You had to break through what was known as the wall. Like, you'll eat so much and then you'd feel full, but you'd be like, man, I know I can eat more if I just keep pushing it and give it a minute, let it settle, maybe burp, stand up, move around a little bit, do something. You can pack more in there. As you listen to your body the wrong way, you get to a point, you start learning that those are things you can overcome. So while you're abusing your body, you learn how to listen to it all the wrong ways, but you have to kind of redefine all of that once you get on the other side of surgery, to get to a point where you can listen to it in a positive way and not try to out eat your sleeve and think, well, if I just eat a few bites really fast, then by the time it catches up to me, I can get more of the burger down or more of the whatever it is I'm trying to eat down before it really catches up and I have to stop. And those are things that I've caught myself doing even post-op. Earlier on, was trying to do those very things, and it was simply from listening. I knew that I needed to listen to my body different, but my old habit still wanted to creep in and say, well, but if you do it this way, you can trick the system and still get a little, a few more bites in there. And that's just that. Those are things that really, between talking to Wendy, talking to April, and having these really tough conversations with ourselves, that you learn that you even, what you thought you were doing still isn't quite right, and you had to readjust it even some more.
Right.
Wendy, sorry to cut you off, Jason. Thank you for that. There's a really great question in the chat from Stacy. So VICE is when we are emotionally spent. Would this be correct?
It's what we turn to when we're emotionally spent. So it's the thing that gives us that list that we did. It gives us fun, gives us pleasure, gives us energy, gives us stamina. Those are the things that we turn to because our emotional load is bigger than our resources. So we use our VICE to kind of help us through. It's almost like if you had a best friend and you always called them when you needed help or you needed comfort, that your best friend is VICE, and it's not a great friend really overall.
In a lot of ways, it's like a tool. It's a tool that we turn to when we are out of tools. And unfortunately, the tool can be detrimental to our overall health and well-being.
It can. And so we can, if we switched from doing things that are detrimental to just kind of doing a body scan, checking to see how we're feeling, we could do that just as easily. Well, we could get to the point where we did that just as easily as we did this other thing. And the only reason we go to another VICE is because we never really reevaluated what we could do instead, because we're just looking to feel better. And if we could go in and do a body scan, understand why we feel the way we feel, work that piece through, because addiction isn't the problem. Addiction is a symptom of the problem. And so if we can go in and we can fix what the real problem is, then we don't need the addiction anymore to deal with the problem. So when we do a body scan, we locate where we're feeling it. We can figure out why we feel that way. And it's probably something that happened a long time ago, an old trauma that hasn't been worked out. If we can figure out why we feel like we need to do the addiction, then we're actually getting somewhere. And but I did love that slide you put up about VICES, April. That was quite wonderful.
Well, and I will let people know we made this slide after our interview with Wendy, and that what is a VICE slide is available on our Instagram homepage. And I think it's really helpful. Again, it's a great check-in point for us, right? Like, is this a VICE? If you're questioning, is this a VICE, or am I doing this because I need to get through it and it's not helping me? You can turn to that slide and kind of check yourself on those 4 things, right? Is it something that's taking away from other areas of my life? Right? Is it something I turn to when my physical emotional load becomes too much? Is it something that causes me regret after I've done it? And is it something I'm doing to excess that's a detriment to my health and well-being? And if your answer is yes to any one of those things, now you have a starting point. Oh, okay, this isn't helping me. What would help me? You're just doing that. You're doing that body scan that Wendy was talking about. Yeah.
If you need a really good body scan, some people like that guided visualization. So it's easy for me to say, I just scan from head to toe or from toe to head and figure out what you're feeling. But most of us are like, yeah, but I don't know how. I haven't done it. Or where do I start? There's an app called Eat Right Now, RIGHT Right Now. And I really like that app because it's got a body scan in there that's just really, really good. And the first 4 days are free, and they're yours forever. You don't have to put down a credit card or anything to access those first 4 days. And happily, the body scan is in that section. So that's a great place to start, and just go there and do the body scan from there. But remember that your addiction is not the problem; it's a symptom of what's really going on underneath. Why we started eating crazy in the first place. Yeah.
Super powerful, Wendy. Are there any questions for her before we transition to Colleen? And I know Colleen is actually going to share kind of how she has used this technique without knowing that this was a technique that Wendy was going to present today. Yeah, now would be a really great time for questions. Or I would love to know in the chat, we would love to know, is this resonating with you? Did you learn an aha?
And while Colleen's doing this, I have not. I've had the sun straight in my eyes. So I can read now. I can see things on the screen. And so I'll read your chats too, and I'll respond to them toward the end, if that's okay with everybody. That'd be all right?
I think that's perfect, Wendy. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
And I'm just going to be quiet for 10 seconds so you can think. If you have a question, now is your time to ask. You want to take this time to reflect. I know I'm talking. Okay, 10 seconds.
Can I just say something real fast, April?
Yes.
I just want to say thank you, Wendy, because I just posted on the chat. I almost did not show up today because I'm struggling so messed up today. It's been a really rough week for me. I'm crying right now because it's just been really rough. But thank you so much, because this did resonate with me, and it's just making me reflect about a lot of things. And I almost went to bad vices today, really bad vices, and that's food, and we all struggle with it. And I had to stop myself, like drive in the car to pick up my son from ABA therapy, and just say, listen, like, I'm better than this. I'm better than food. I'm better than my addiction. I'm better than everything. We did this for a purpose. We did this to help ourselves, to get better. And I had to put food on the back burner, even though I want to go to McDonald's and grab a hamburger and just stuff my face, because it just really helps me cope with everything that's going on. So I just want to say thank you. And I'm so glad to be here and meet all of you today. Thank you so much.
Way to go, Z. Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, glad you're here.
Yep, Danielle, great question. Wendy will address that in the chat. Absolutely. Wonderful question. All right, you guys, I'm so excited to introduce you to Colleen, who is going to share with us her personal VICE story. And she's going to talk to us about how she's doing the work, you guys. She's doing the thing. Can you guys see my screen before I move on? Can you see it now? Oh, yes. All right. So to transition us to this new, to Colleen's story, I thought this is really great. And this came from Kristen Willard. But mindfulness is the space between impulse and action.
April, we do actually have a hand raised, Cindy.
Oh, do it. Yeah, Cindy, go for it.
That was totally an accident on my part, sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
No worries, just wanted to make sure.
Oh, I had a hand raised. Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys.
You're totally fine. Right. So the technique that Wendy taught us is really just about understanding we have this moment of space. And Colleen is going to really share with us how she has found some of these moments of space. So hello, Colleen. Welcome. Will you give us an introduction? Can you? There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Colleen. So as it says, so I am a medical educator. I train the medical record system for a hospital, and I had VSG in August of 2020. And I put that weight loss, but the best part personally for me right now is like having less restrictions every day. Like I prefer taking the stairs over the elevator. Like I would have never said that a year ago. And today I was walking to my car and I had to walk in between two very tight cars and I didn't have to go sideways. Like I was able to walk through and it just felt like so empowering. So little thing.
You've done some amazing things. And if you guys do not follow Colleen, she's out. I mean, everybody follow everybody. But Colleen is like many in our community. She keeps it real. She keeps it honest. And especially when it comes to her vice when it comes to shopping. So today, Colleen's kind of got three things that she wants to talk to us about. Overindulgence, right? Want and need shopping, online versus the in-store shopping experience, and then her thrill and coping strategy. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so that we can see Colleen's beautiful face and just have a conversation with her.
Yay.
Yay.
So overindulgence, the want and the need to shopping. So my shopping, like free for all, really started about 2 months. I feel like that's when my body really started to change, and I started to be like, okay, I wear leggings. You know, my leggings were a little too loose on me, and at first, you know, it was a necessity. So I needed a pair of work pants, and then I needed a shirt, and then, you know, I was also getting into the fitness aspect of the journey where I needed new workout gear. And you know, when I had the extra money, you know, I couldn't help but spend it. You know, I was more of like an impulsive buyer. Like, you know, I started with work pants and now it's like, I can't just have one work pants. I have to start buying more. And, you know, I can't just always wear black. Like, let me just change up the colors. And I didn't really double check with myself that I actually needed it. It was more of a want. And I really struggled with the overindulgence because knowing that you're going to get smaller, I shouldn't have bought, say that, you know, 5 pairs of pants in the same size. I think that was like my first mistake, you know, like just wear like 3 pairs or 2 pairs of pants and, you know, just deal with it until, you know, you are going to get smaller as you go. And I think that was like, honestly, my first one. I just overspent on things that, you know, I knew were going to fit me for a period of time. And then the online versus in-store. So I'll start with in-store. In-store it's harder. It was harder for me to shop because I think it's harder to spend your money. You know, it's not kind of calculated for you. I'm not a math person. I will never be a math person. I can't calculate prices in my head. I will use a calculator to the day I die. And, you know, it's not like in my add to cart and it's adding up for me. So, you know, I just experienced, you know, with COVID happening, dressing rooms weren't open, so it's kind of harder to see if something would fit you. And I recently was able to go ahead and go into a fitting room and put on the clothes and really experiencing the high of it fitting in a fitting room when a year ago, or, you know, a year and a half ago, when it wasn't COVID times, when things were not fitting me, and, you know, like, oh, can you go get another size? You know, like, oh, it doesn't come in another size, and feeling that mental like drain of you finding like, you love these, like you loved this dress, but it doesn't come in a bigger size. So it's just like the emotional drain of, great, you know, like it's not fitting me and now I have to find something else to wear. And I didn't get that high when I shop online. So, and I feel like this might sound weird, but like feeling clothes kind of gives you a sensation versus like you're actually like, you're picking it off the rack versus just adding to cart, as I said. And then the online experience, I think it's just such a mindless tactic that I do where I was just calculating, it just adds it for you. You just add to the cart, you're hoping that it will look good and fit you. Afterpay and Sezzle are my best friends. It makes it easier for me to shop financially now, but it's also kind of my purchases are getting up there. And I only make so much money and I can only allow so much money to go to shopping. And, when I have to choose in between, like I drink protein shakes still 9 months post-op, I still drink them, in between, cutting my protein drink in half versus buying a shirt, it's like, did I really need that shirt or do I really need my protein shake? I really need my protein shake. I don't need this other shirt. And I was putting money on my credit card knowing I won't be able to pay off the whole amount. And it's a struggle. I am very thankful that my husband and I don't have the same account. My husband does, he buys what he buys. As long as our bills are paid, we're good. But getting packages with the online experience as well is such a high for me. Like you come home from work and it's like, you have a package, it's like, I can't wait to open it up and, try on these pants to see if they'll fit me. And, just like if I didn't get a package, like, oh, why is it delayed? It's like flipping UPS, Amazon, Prime isn't Prime anymore, especially with, the pandemic and the delays of shipping, it's like, oh, I wanted to get that shirt so I could wear it like out this weekend. So the online experience of, and especially if like things didn't fit, I'm not a person to return. I'll just usually donate. I know that's probably really bad because I could get money back for it, or I'll use Poshmark as well. If the UPS driver passes on. I love that because it's very true. I always get packages. My husband's like, what did you buy? It's like, what didn't I buy at this point? And also it's such a thrill when you're such a bigger size. I started a size 22 pants. I'm a very short person and finding pants is just like, short was even too long for me. Petite, pretty much that's where I am. And it's kind of like the validation that you get that you can be in smaller sizes. So I remember when I first, like my chest started shrinking first. That's like the biggest part of me that really went. And mindlessly, I bought a bra in the same size, not thinking that they shrunk. So I was like, oh, why did I just do that? But what I do, I just donated it because, it's like, I rather just donate than deal with returning. And I think that's like the worst thing possible. And I think that's where also a lot of my money has gone. But fitting into smaller sizes, like buying smaller jeans that you'd never think of. Like I have put in my Instagram stories multiple times of like trying to fit into these. I'm like, they almost fit, like they button, but I can't sit down. But like the rush of knowing I will get into them, it's just like when. So this was very early on. So again, I really started shopping about 2 months. I'm 9 months now. And I kind of 2 months ago really took a step back, after kind of seeing my Afterpay and my Sezzle and my credit card really piling up and kind of making, as I said before, like, do I really need a shirt or do I really need protein drinks? Like kind of making that decision really put a spark in me of like, why am I buying these things? Like, why, like Old Navy, Walmart, Fabletics, Shein, American Eagle are my top stores. Old Navy especially, but Old Navy can be tricky because their sizes just range all over the place. But I really kind of took a step back and it was more of now I'm looking at a want and need. And I'm looking and for example, if I need new shorts, because I am still losing, I put that on my list and I'm really kind of determining, okay, let's put money aside for those shorts. You're not going to just, like next time you get paid, you're not just going to impulsively buy them. You're going to actually go ahead and put money aside, especially if I want American Eagle shorts. And I'm not trying to use Afterpay and Sezzle as much because I can overspend and I overindulge on things that I don't really need and I really don't it's not that I don't want them. I definitely want them, but it's more of a, do I really, really need this? Like, what value is this going to add to my life? You know, like if I don't get this shirt, if I don't get this t-shirt, if I don't wear like what everyone else is wearing. And especially because it's like, because we're still losing, and I don't know about if anyone else has this, but like, what's my style going to be? Because what my style was, you know, last year doesn't mean that's going to be my style this year, because I can wear different shirts and, you know, my arms are smaller and I don't feel as self-conscious about them. You know, like, can I fit into these, can I ultimately fit into these shirts, and will it look good? And that's where like the online versus the in-store experience kind of benefits as well. But I would still say shopping is a vice for me. I am trying to mentally really think before I buy certain items. And, you know, I'm close to my goal weight and what I have been doing. And as I'm buying sizes that I know that will be near my goal weight, you know, maybe they are a little bit snug on me now in hopes that they'll fit me. But I think the biggest mistake that I made was buying so much of the same size very early on and not realizing that I really didn't need, again, those 5 pairs of pants and, you know, how many shirts did I buy, you know, and just enough to get you by, and kind of not have that like, oh, I'm wearing the same shirt again. So what? You're wearing the same shirt again. You know, it is what it is. You know, you're progressing and you're getting smaller. You know, it's good to indulge, but at the same time, it has become a massive issue for me.
Well, and I guess, Colleen, the question, and I think you probably have addressed this, but when did you realize that, okay, this is really dangerous, or I'm really going down a bad path here? When did it finally click for you that, okay, doing all the shopping is actually detrimental to my like mental health or my financial health?
So it started 2 months post-op when I really started buying, and then about 2 months ago, so I'm 9 months, so it took me about 7 months. So it was a good time frame of me just buying and buying.
Yeah, Jen asked a really great question in the chat. She said, Colleen, did you have like a moment or a situation that happened that made you aware of your problem?
Yes, when I've had to ask like my mom for money to pay for like a certain bill. And, you know, it just like, well, what are you buying? And I'm like, you know, like, Mom, you know, I'm not fitting into these things, but didn't you just, and my mom lives like 7 minutes away from me. So it's, you know, we have a very close relationship. And she goes, how much are you spending on clothes? And I'm like, Mom, like, you're not, you know, like, I'm not spending your money, but essentially, you know, I was spending her money at the same time because she was helping me. But it's kind of like a guilty feeling asking someone else for money. And kind of, you know, when somebody, if you're, you know, at a work function, or if, you know, your friend wants to go out to dinner, you know, like, I don't have the money, because again, I would spend it on clothes.
Well, and I think what makes this so challenging is that, you know, we finally get to the point where it's like, oh, I can finally buy the clothes that I've always wanted to buy, or I fit into this size. And you just get so excited about that. But then when we spend too much, we find ourselves just right back into that cycle that Wendy shared with us. It's like, oh my gosh, right? Like I'm buying, but it's actually really trying to fill something that I just haven't worked through yet. And then I'm feeling shamed or guilty about it. Oh my God, the bill comes, and then you feel even worse. And then you can justify it by saying, oh, but I've lost more weight. Oh, but now I'm a smaller size. But now I need this, right?
Yes.
So you just continue to do this until you find yourself asking your mom for money. Like, oh my God, that sucks. That
And
sucks.
it's such a high too, you get.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned it that way, because for myself being a man, the thing for me was I was tired of paying the fat tax. So a pair of shorts, like for me going to work, I could wear, since I'm in Florida, I could wear nicer dress shorts and polos and things. So I went to golf stuff. Everything I bought was golf clothes, because I can wear it and it fits the mold, but it's elastic waist, so it's comfortable. So, but when you're a man and you're the size, thank you, Charity. What you end up doing is you pay $75 for a pair of shorts, and you pay another $75 for a polo. And at that point, you've got one single outfit that you can wear for one day, you know, and you've paid over $100 for it. So then you turn around and get to, you know, I start losing weight, tumbling down. Then I realize that, oh, hey, I can go to Walmart now and I can buy a pair of shorts. It's the same golf stuff, same material, same everything, for $16, and the polo's $16. So you're like, yeah, I'm winning. So then you just start like snatching them up and you're like, well, this is cool too, but hey, I don't really have a lot of t-shirts that fit me anymore. And those t-shirts are only $5. Start tossing them in the basket because you're like, well, shit, even at the end of the day, I'm still going to come home with this giant bag for the same $140 I would have spent if I would have just got, you know, an outfit from the big and tall store. But then at the end of the day, it's the same situation like what you're talking about. So yes, technically you're saving money because you're paying less per item, but you still wind up spending the same damn amount of money or more because it's so easy to just go grab those, and it's only $5. What's $5? So you just start snatching it up and throwing it in there, and before you know it, you have that same amount. And Colleen, boy, you're speaking my language. You're talking about you don't return anything, because I don't either. If it does not fit me, I'm just like, nope, throw it to the back of the closet until eventually my wife's like, what the hell is all this stuff? And I'm like, oh, no, it doesn't fit. You throw it in a bag and you donate it. You just take off. And where she works, it's super easy to donate everything because she has clients that need clothes. And she has a couple of bigger clients. So I'm like, whoop, send it to the people because I don't need it anymore. Her not ever knowing that I bought it at full price or whatever regular price it was. And I just tossed it off to somebody else. I'm just like, well, they need it more than I do. So it's fine. So, I mean, it's just that the cycle just keeps going, and it's great. Yes, DXL, casual mail, that's exactly, every male knows exactly what I'm talking about, because they hit you hard, because they're just like, oh, that's cute that you want to look like everybody else, but you're going to pay for it to do that.
It feels almost like the lottery because when you grow up, I mean, women know like Torrid, right? Like you shop the sales at Torrid religiously. Like you go to that clearance rack because a t-shirt is $30. And so for me, like I just discovered Shein, I paid $200, but I got like 10 items of clothing. And I was showing them, it's funny that we're like talking about this today, because I was showing my mom on FaceTime. I'm like, look at this was only $10. And like, you know, and I literally felt high because I was like, I won the lottery, I won the jackpot. I got 10 plus items of clothing for $200, and now I just want to keep going. And I'm glad that we're having this discussion today because I find myself just scrolling on Shein now for no reason.
I agree with you there. Like working at Old Navy for a year, I was used to like shopping and even looking at the clearance rack, plus size clothing. There were, for a pair of jeans in clearance was like $20. Or regular retail price was $60. And then looking at clearance, losing all this weight and looking at the clearance section, I could find a pair of jeans for 97 cents, my size. And I'll be at work and I'm like, I'm coming home with bags. And my husband's like, how much more clothes do you need? So I'm kind of glad I broke away from working there full time because it kind of gave me that little help. But I'm still looking online for clothes because like, I like to shop at Shein. I like to shop at others. And those are my vices as well. Just looking at other places to shop and finding clothes our size that are cheap, and you're just wanting to buy. So I have packages coming in and I'm just like, I need to stop and take a break for a minute because I'm really buying everything under the book that I see that's my size, and I am getting smaller. So I agree with you there.
So you guys, I hate to, I'm not going to cut this conversation short, but I do want to respect our time. We are at 6:04. I would love, Colleen, will you share with us what you have done recently that you feel is helping you the most, kind of get a better handle on your shopping? And then Wendy, are there things that you recommend that we could do to help us in this area of shopping and vices?
Let's hear from Colleen first. Yeah.
Thanks, Wendy. So recently I have started to return things. I won't return things from Amazon because I think that's a pain personally. But if I go to stores like Old Navy, Walmart, I will go ahead and return things because I'm not going to be selfish with my money anymore. And that's money that I can get in my pocket for new clothes, essentially. I'm writing down what I've been doing recently is I'm writing down what I actually really need. So it's getting hotter. I live in Massachusetts. It's getting hotter where I am. I currently only have 2 pairs of shorts. I know I need shorts, and when I can, I will buy them. I will wear those 2 pairs of shorts until, it gets into July when I really, really need them, and kind of learning the wants and the needs and writing down a list of, am I buying this to just buy it, or am I buying this to essentially really need it? and reusing the clothes that I have. And, if someone sees me in the same shirt every week, so what? I've learned a lot to not care what other people think of me, and wearing the same shirt again, or the same pants, 2 days in a row, which, I do. And just learning that aspect, and kind of looking at my money, and do I, and not be impulsive with my purchases, and be smart about it, is what I've learned now.
And I know too, Colleen, in just our personal conversations, you really have talked about the power of a budget, and the power of that little scan that Wendy showed us, right? Really checking yourself, saying, okay, do I need this or do I want this? And what is driving this purchase, right? Is it something emotional, or do I legitimately need a pair of shorts, or do I legitimately need that bra? Those things have seemed to be a really big help for you recently.
Yes, that's definitely budgeting for certain things. And, essentially I think, shopping did, kind of cut my, my food. So like at the, if I ate all my, I don't really track macros, but if I ate all my calories or whatever for the day, instead of wanting another snack, I would go online and shop. It's just like such a mindless tactic that I was doing. And, kind of instead of going to food, I was going to shopping.
I was just going to write in the chat. I was like, oh my God, that is like a mind blowing connection right there. Like, oh, I can't just mindlessly go eat, but I can go mindlessly do something else. Holy shit.
That's it right there. You nailed it, Colleen.
Yeah. So Wendy, what would be your advice for us?
So I'll just give you an illustration that I heard this week from a client. Hers wasn't shopping, hers was something else, but I just said to her, okay, do that something else if you need to, but just stop and give yourself, time yourself for 2 minutes and spend that 2 minutes figuring out what's going on inside first. And then do the thing if you need to do the thing, and just start small that way. And she came back in and she said, it was so weird. I found the place, and it was just an emptiness between my heart and my stomach. And it was just empty. And I was just trying to put stuff into it. And it didn't matter if it was food. It didn't matter if it was, the thing that she was trying to do. It didn't matter. None of that mattered. I was just empty. And I just wanted to fill it. Just wanted to fill the emptiness. And she said, now at least I know that it's emptiness that I'm trying to fill. We did some things to try to figure out where it was coming from and how to heal it. Because again, the emptiness is the problem. The eating, the shopping, the whatever is the symptom of I'm just trying to fill that up. And a lot of you have written on here, yeah, my mom would reward me with food. Yeah, who didn't, right? And so if we want to reward, or if we food to reward ourselves, because that's what we grew up with. So it's finding, it is taking the time to just check yourself. It's having the plan. I like Colleen's idea of the budget. Our food plan is our budget for our food, having a budget for our money, having a plan, and then just following the plan. And if we can't follow the plan, take some minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, just to check and find out what part of you really needs to go off the plan, because that's almost as important as staying on the plan. Sometimes we need to find out what's driving that need to do our vice, whatever that is. So it's kind of a cool way to do it. April has my favorite books up there.
Oh, well, and what I do really appreciate about your approach to this is you're not saying don't do it. You're saying understand why you do it. And once we know our why, we are smart people. We can make the decision that is best for us, right? And some days the decision is to do the vice. That is best. It's just, it can't logically be the best decision every day or every time we're there. But getting that knowledge within us helps us make the decision that is smart and best for us. No shame, just knowledge.
Yeah, one of my favorite sayings is there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And this is how you get feedback. We're not going to every day, we're not going to have a home run every single day. But if we understand what we need to do to adjust, we've just done something amazing for ourselves. And eventually we'll get there. Eventually we'll figure it out. It's when we quit trying and we get so embarrassed or ashamed or feeling guilty that's when we're doomed. But as long as we keep trying, we're going to be okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I love to tell people that it is a marathon, not a sprint. You're not going to win every single day, and that's okay. You're like, nobody wakes up and wins the day at breakfast. Like, if you mess up at breakfast, you still got lunch and dinner. Like, there's so many ways that you could look at it that we could just completely remove the failure option from the dynamic.
That's
Just
right.
because there's just so many, we're on this journey from whatever time you had the surgery until the end. So it's going to be every single day you're going to fight. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Wendy, you're 15 years out. There's these things.
I still have, yeah, I still have my days. I tell you what, and even the shopping ones. I was telling April and Jason in the podcast that we did, where I just went out and spent $200 on my dog. For heaven's sakes, who does that? I do, but thank goodness I don't do it very often. That's, yeah. But the books that are up here are, somebody mentioned Atomic Habits. Yes, yes, yes. Willpower Instinct, Healing Developmental Trauma. This is when we talk about the problems that we feed. That's a great book. It's painful to read. Super good book. Tapping Solution uses tapping as a way to deal with cravings. I use this with my clients. I really like it. Body Keeps the Score, Bessel van der Kolk. Again, that's a book about how the problem got going in the first place. Craving Mind is Judson Brewer. He's the one that does the app that I suggested, the right eating right now. He uses neuroscience to help you understand why we crave, and specifically about craving food. Craving Mind is a book about craving everything. So those are ones I recommend.
And you guys know, I've read many of these. I think Natalie's read quite a few of these as well. So we love them. You guys know James Clear is going to be my future second husband. So, I mean, come on now. The other, I would highly recommend you guys, these 3 podcasts, 2 of them are with Wendy. So episode 19 and episode 49 is with the amazing Wendy, talking about addiction transfer and understanding vices. Phenomenal. And our conversation with Kedrick, even though the title of that podcast is Reframing Food, phenomenal discussion about shopping and the fat tax and how Ked has also adjusted his life, because he found himself kind of going down this shopping road too. So it's a really wonderful conversation with him. I highly recommend those as well. Wendy, Colleen, thank you so very much for joining us. If you can stay on a little bit after, if people have questions, I'm sure they would appreciate that. I don't know if you can or not, so I don't mean to like throw you under the bus on that one, but there's so much here to talk about. Before we go, you guys know I always love to check in with you, our guests, our community members. Are you leaving today with what you were hoping to? You can unmute yourself. You could write it in the chat. Our goal is always new learning, ahas, connections.
April, this is Angie. And I just want to say that this couldn't have been more perfect timing for me. I am 10 months out and I can totally relate to a lot of this shopping thing. It's definitely, I think, my vice. And I think part of it is like, I'm excusing it because it's like, oh, it's so fun. I can go into any shop now and find, it might be the 12 or the 14, but I can fit into it now. And there's so much fun with that. And so like, we're blessed enough that I can kind of shop and it doesn't affect us too much. And, but I mean, it would eventually, I could spend that money on plastics or something eventually if I wanted to, but it's just this really was perfect, and it's what I definitely needed today. And Wendy gave us some really good tips, definitely, that I will take away from tonight. So thank you for doing this, both of you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, and Colleen, we cannot thank you enough for being so public about something that a lot of us would choose to keep very private. Your willingness to share is what is going to help all of us find success. Thank you, friend.
Of course.
All right, you guys. As always, I will make sure that you get this podcast information. If you would like to continue to support what we're doing here at East to West, there's 3 big areas that you can help us in. You can share our content. Sorry about my typo. You can participate, or you can become a patron, right? Sharing. So just by liking sharing it with your friends and followers, tagging us, all that kind of stuff helps us grow. If you participate and you find some value of it and you go out and you go, oh my God, I went to this thing, I learned so much, that helps. You can also become a patron of East to West for $5 a month. You literally help us keep the lights on and you are helping us grow. We have some amazing things that we're really hoping to do in the future, and our patrons are really helping us make those things happen. So lots of ways that you can support. Yeah, and you guys being here, you guys, I really, this is what it is all about. You guys are the best part of the community. You truly are. We are in it together and we are in it to win it. So thank you for taking time out of your day to learn and grow with us. Next month, you guys, you're the first ones to know this, but we are shifting our support focus to skin. And really it's all about loving the skin that we are in, or loving our skin to the point where we're ready to maybe do something about excess skin, right? So no shame in that game either. So our June support focus is skin. It will be our virtual bariatric meetup will be Monday, June 21st, again, 5 p.m. Registration is open, you guys. If you would like to go register for the event, you can do so right now. We have some amazing podcast guests lined up, estheticians, plastic surgeons, all kinds of really wonderful people. So it should be a wonderful month of support. I really, truly can't thank you guys enough for coming. Thank you for asking your questions, being so vulnerable, you know, speaking your truth, all those buzzwords that really, truly are not buzzwords. They are how we learn and grow. This recording will be available for the world in a couple days, and I will make sure that I, like I said, I'll send you guys all of that good stuff. But just thank you so very much for coming. I will hang on here for a couple of extra minutes if you guys have questions or comments. I think Natalie and Jason will do the same. I don't know if Colleen and Wendy can as well, but thank you guys. You are amazing.
Yeah, it takes a lot for you guys to come on and like Colleen, you know, for you to be as vulnerable as you are, and everybody just to share your own story and just look for the support. The biggest step is, you know, like we said to Z, just signing on, just, you know, making yourself, because that's exactly how April and I met. I found one of these on on Instagram, and I just signed on. I was like, yeah, we'll see what it's about, and you know, it turned into all of this. So you know, we love what we're doing to help support you guys. So as much as you guys think we're supporting you, you're supporting us. I say it a lot, I know, but you know, yeah, for those of you that are asking about my wife, thank you so much. You guys, all the questions, support. She's doing actually amazing. She's going to make me look dumb. Everybody thought that I did really good. I talked about how great I did after surgery, and I just skated through. Yeah, no, she's already outdoing what I did post-op. So, you know, I already told her, I was like, you're going to make me look like a fraud. I'm going to look like a hack. You're just over here like, my first couple of strolls around the driveway were enough for me post-op, and she's already walking to the end of the street and back. Chris, thanks, sir. Yeah, she's already out. She's running circles around me post-op, so it's pretty great. So I once she got past the little bouts of nausea and getting sick in the hospital, it was all uphill from there, or downhill, I guess I should say. Because she basically, what we found out had happened was her IV blew in her arm. So everything they were trying to give her was going into her tissue. So everything for nausea, it just didn't happen. No, you did not miss the first meal. The first meal was god awful. It was hospital food and it was gross. I did not pack for myself like I was supposed to, because I helped her pack and get her stuff ready, and I was so focused on that. I did not pack for myself, so it was disgusting hospital food, and I wasn't going to subject you guys to that. So, but I appreciate you checking. But no, it was gross, and my stomach felt awful, like I knew it was going to. So I've backed down to a very pleasurable mixture of liquids and a little bit of food to reintroduce it into my system. So.
Yeah.
Shocking. Well, thank you guys so very much. If you have questions for Wendy or Colleen, feel free to ask. If you are ready to go and think about all that you've learned, have a wonderful evening, and thank you for joining us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
I'm just going to be quiet because I tend to talk too much. So I want to make sure people have questions they can ask.
What? You? No way.
I'm shocked.
What? The person who records 2-hour-long podcasts with Jason and Wendy and publishes them and people listen?
That's the first time hearing of that. I don't know what to speak of.
Weird.
Oh, well, that was, I love hearing Vices over and over and over again because it just helps stick it in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this was great. I mean, it's something that we talk about a lot, but to hear it from, you know, Wendy and Colleen, and it does make you kind of think, oh yeah, maybe I did, you know, do this out of something other than what I thought it was. And yeah, it actually is really funny. I was talking to my mom. I was like, look at all these clothes I got. They're so cheap. And like, I was so excited. And then I got off the phone and I was like, oh, maybe need to think about that for a minute.
It's really insightful. Really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No shame.
What I did before surgery, when I started my Instagram about a year ago, I, you know, whoever I followed, if they did lives or if they did their stories, you know, I'd see them go shopping and stuff. And you're like, they said, you know, like the biggest thing that, you know, you really need to do is, you know, budget for shopping. And I was like, you know, I'm not going to need to do that. You know, it's not going to be, that's not going to happen. And I was like, what are these people doing? And I really wish I created a clothes budget then, like a year ago, because I would have set myself up for success. And I just was like, they don't know what they're talking about. Like, you know, they're just like, you know, just someone making their story. And no, they definitely did. And, you know, I feel like I was such a naive person when I first started my Instagram. And I don't know if anyone would relate, but like, I was trying to find like in the bio of like finding someone very similar to like my body type, you know, like height, what their starting weight, what their current weight, or, you know, like those certain things. And it's like, essentially kind of compare like what I could look like when, you know, even way before my surgery. So, you know, I really do wish I listened ahead of time versus where I am now, but now I am able to reflect and be here of what I did and what I've learned.
Colleen, that's actually how I decided to go ahead and have the surgery. Is I looked on Instagram and was looking through weight loss surgery people, and was kind of like, I mean, I don't really know if it's going to work for somebody like me because I'm a giant human. So, you know, I don't think it's really going to work like that for me. Well, I found somebody that was actually an inch taller than me and weighed 100 pounds more than I did. And I saw what he had ended up doing, and I was like, shit, if he can do that, then there's, you know, it's got to work for me. And that's actually one of the main reasons I decided to go ahead and talk to my doctor about it, because I was like, well, this guy can do it, surely it'll work for me too. But yeah, it's not silly at all.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that a lot of times vices are just shorthand for a way to take care of ourselves without really taking care of ourselves. You know, like going shopping, it feels really good. It's a way that we feel like we did something. But then if we overshop or if we overplay or if we overeat or oversleep, it felt like in the moment we took care of us, but in the end we didn't. So we have those regrets. And I think it's hard to just take care of ourselves. Just, you know, good self-care every day is tough.
Mm-hmm. Well, Wendy, sorry.
Sorry.
Do it. I'm gonna shift gears to another topic. So keep going.
Well, I was just gonna say, as somebody who is in maintenance now, and I've been in maintenance for a while, I kept using that as an excuse of why I was buying things. I kept telling myself, oh, I'm in maintenance now. This is the size I'm going to be. So I have to completely rebuild my wardrobe from zero. And so every time I would buy something, that would be the excuse that I was using. Yes, I need it, you know, because this is going to be my forever size. And so that's what I did. But now when I actually like am going back to work and have to wear like real adult human clothes, I look at all the clothes that I've bought in maintenance mode through the pandemic and all of that. And I'm like, okay, I have a lot of athleisure and a lot of sweats and a lot of leggings and a lot of jeans, like not practical things for what I am doing as my job now. And so now it's like, now I do need to buy more because I have to clothe myself for work. And I have a whole closet and a whole dresser that is absolutely full of clothes that I wore over a pandemic, that once I go back into the workforce, how often am I really going to wear them?
Speaking the truth.
Yeah.
And that's a whole new layer that the pandemic has brought on for us.
Yeah, it has. Sure. So April, you asked about sex addiction, porn addiction. That is what I see a lot, and it could be male, it could be female. I mean, there are counselors, therapists that specialize in that. And I wouldn't go to someone that wasn't a specialist in that particular one, because it's got some components, because it involves other people usually, that it's something it's not an inanimate object like food or a piece of clothing. And so that one kind of does require specialists. You can go to SAA meetings, Sex Addiction Anonymous meetings. That's a great place to start.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah. And it gives you kind of an idea of, well, do I have it or do I not have it, or what is it? And so you can go to those as a starting spot and go, okay, I do want to, I have this, or I don't have it. And if I have it, I can kind of decide what I want to do with this. And if people want to, message me or email me, I'd be glad to help them kind of find resources in the area where they live, because it is kind of its own special thing. But anything that lights up the dopamine pathways is an addiction, and anything we don't have control over that messes with our functioning is an addiction.
And I think what makes sex and food so difficult is that you need both. I mean, you know what I mean? Like you are hardwired to consume food, and you are hardwired to have sex. Yeah. So how do I know when I have crossed that barrier, that threshold? Because if I'm feeling guilty after sex, that could mean a lot of things, right? It would be hard to, I think it would just be very hard to identify.
Yeah. And again, when you involve another person, even if it's porn, it does involve a person indirectly, sometimes directly. And so when you're doing that, it goes back to that slide that you showed, is it affecting the way I feel? Do I have control over it? Is it affecting my quality of life? It's those questions. And I know some people that probably fit the you turn to it when the emotional load's too great to carry. I know some people that probably fit this, but the part that's missing is that there's no regrets, and they don't feel like it's affecting their life. So it may or may not fall into that addiction spot. So sex addiction is really one it's something absolutely to look at. Don't say, well, I don't know what to do with this. Something super important to look at, fairly common, actually. Nothing to feel guilt or shame about, but it would require a more specialized approach. And, again, email me. I'll be glad to help you find somebody or find even meetings in your area. So, yeah.
That would be so helpful, Wendy. And I think Wendy knows, and Jason and Natalie, we've tried reaching out to so many sex therapists to join us on the podcast, and their answer was no. And they gave very legit, they don't need to give a reason, right? But when you really start talking about it, it's just such a personal area of expertise, and they just didn't feel comfortable talking about it in such, an open and public forum. And I think because there's also just so many reasons that people might shift to that area. So it was a real struggle, but man, and it's hard for me too. I'm just not a very sexual person. I never have been. And it's hard to me to relate or to, just empathize in that, because it's just not who I am. I can talk about a lot of different things, but for me, that's just well,
and I think it's important too to understand that some of us, we have basically three subtypes. A sexual subtype, a social subtype, and a survivor subtype. So if you're a sexual subtype, you're going to run everything, or not everything, a lot of things through that sexual, you got a sexual pair of glasses on, the lenses that you look through life in are going to be, sexual or social or survival. So for sexual subtypes, you drop a bunch of weight, you feel really different. You've got a different body that you really want to get out there and strut and show and have experiences with. And so those folks tend to be more susceptible or at least more dabbling with this kind of thing. And that can become something that they can feel out of control with eventually. Yeah.
I would have never in a million years. I did not. Wow. Every time, Wendy, every time I spend 5 minutes with you, I'm like, oh my God, how did I get through life thus far and not know that?
Yeah.
You just basically helped solve my marriage.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Hi, Wendy.
Grady is going to be so happy.
Hot dog. Okay.
Send me the bill.
I know, I was
Megan.
gonna say you're welcome, Grady.
Right. Call Grady down here and tell him his night's about to get a lot better.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah.
What were those 3 subtypes again?
Sexual. And of course, that's pretty self-explanatory, but we really have a very strong need for sex and to reach out in that way. Social, which is we have a strong need for, people and people to talk to. And then survival, we look at everything as a little bit of scarcity rather than abundance. Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but there you go. And so it depends on which subtype you are as to how you view the world. It's sort of your a little bit like your operating system, a little bit. Your operating system is really your personality, but this is a section of your personality type.
Okay, I'm just gonna pause. If you're watching this, thank you for watching. I'm gonna stop recording. So because talking about these things involves other people, but thank you all for coming. We're gonna continue this conversation as soon as I hit stop recording. Y'all are amazing.